Yukon Stores, welcome to Mobile Application Development. I want to do a couple of videos here to start off the semester with a couple of things in mind. On Monday when we had class, I had a problem with updates, and I want to show you where we're at with that. You are probably going to want to get Android Studio Koala. It was a pretty significant update from my last edition, which happened to be Giraffe to Koala. So I think we're going to have to all be in Koala to get started. If throughout the semester they put in a new version, we could probably stick to Koala. So I'm going to actually show you my old version in case there are any videos that are going to be left hanging around from the last semester, and then maybe through this you can see that it is an old video and what needs to change perhaps. All right, so I just wanted you to see a little bit of what it was like before things got switched to Koala. So I'm going to start up my Android Studios. You'll see that I have the draft edition of 2022. I did not update last semester. The changes weren't that significant. It wants me to pick something to open. I'm going to say new project. Now the reason it's doing that, and I've never seen this screen before, is because I deleted my recent project, which was titled Delete Me. You can see that they are grayed out, so I don't even know if it wants to recover it, but I'm going to say let's make a new project. And we need to see this screen. All right, here you go. Anyhow, that last screen that you couldn't see was no big deal anyway. I don't anticipate that you would see it and do what I had just done. So the first screen I need to talk about is this one. Whenever I open up Android Studios, it does not look like it looks in the textbook, and it will not look the same when I put it into Koala. So I had this happen with students last year is because the book picked the one in the middle top. They did. And that one says empty activity. You actually want to pick an empty views activity. And I actually can't remember if in Koala it's called something different. We will see soon. And then we're going to go ahead and hit next. I'll pause if this takes any amount of time. I will call this, let's say, test project 1. The package name, that's just been left in there as com.bignerdranch.android. Talk about that later. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to change this or this. Yep, I'm going to leave everything else the same. So I'm going to hit finish. And it probably doesn't take too long, but I'm going to pause it. And we're back. You can see right here in the bottom corner that the Gradle finished syncing. It did that automatically when the program was created. Whenever you come into a new program, you might want to go ahead and sync to begin, particularly the first time you're running anything in Android Studios for the day, because when it starts up, it's going to start off in a cold status, and it's going to take longer to finish. Like that took actually 2 minutes or almost 2 minutes. There's a button up here where we can hit sync. If you hover over that one right there, then you can sync. And if I sync a second time, it probably doesn't take much time at all. I'm going to go ahead and try it. It says that the sync has started, and it finished in fewer than 4 seconds, like 3.5 seconds. All right, so we will do a separate video with a tour of Android Studios, but there are a few things I need to look at right now. Over here, excuse me, in this menu, you can see that I am in app, Java, main activity, and you could see that that's the name up here. You're going to get these 2 default files, and there's changes. Whenever I have Koala, we have a lot more on this page, but I want you to see this page right here in case you see it in the future. Okay. The idea is that I wanted to update the first 1/3 of the videos this year and leave the last 2/3 alone. I may have to do the whole set, given that this looks like it is a significant change, but we'll get the feel for that as we get through our Hello World and our robot app to start the semester off. All right, so if I go to activity_main, I'm going to go to code, and you will see that my newer version, when I put in the update, is it's going to be almost identical to that. I'll point out that right about here, we're going to see that it adds an ID for this page. Other than that, I'm pretty sure everything else is going to be identical. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an update. I'll do it off camera. For me, I can go to help, and I could go to check for updates, and it will find that update. For you, whenever you install it for the first time, it's just going to offer you up the most recent version, which is Koala. So get Koala. I'm going to pick it up here. It's opened up my last program that I was in, the one that was a test program. Right now, everything is turned red due to errors, but I'm not really worried about those errors. You can see that on the left, it's reconfiguring everything. Okay, those errors are actually gone. It took about 2 minutes for those errors to go away. It took about 8 minutes to install. The menu on the right is is much different than in the past. It's got these announcements, one of which was telling me to turn off Microsoft Defender, and I'm going to make sure that I don't delete that announcement, because it probably is going to help to make my system run a little bit better if I follow their instructions. So I should be able to hide that for now by coming over to notifications. What's new? Okay. Toggling things. All right, I'll go to something like Device Manager. I can close that out. All right. So I don't see that extra line that's up there. And if I go back to main activity, it's still the same as it was before. And that's because I am opening up something that I made in Giraffe. It wasn't in Koala, so it's got the old code. And I'm curious if it is runnable at this point. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to pause it and see if it does run. You know, there's actually something that I probably ought to show you that's on camera. All right, so I'm going to go into the Gradle scripts. If I collapse everything here, it's got app and it's got Gradle scripts. And these two things can be found under app in different parts. I'll show you that later. Under Gradle scripts, I want the second one down. And I think that this is going to be a problem, because it was for me in Giraffe. That this compile SDK had to be changed. I believe we can take care of that for good. But for here, I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to see if it actually causes the problem I think it's going to cause. Now, another thing you're going to need to know is that you need a virtual device. So we're going to open up your device manager. And let's suppose you don't have anything in there. So I do have a phone in there. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And it's worth noting that, you can come over here and you can hit delete. And this is one of those things that doesn't take that long. And oftentimes when I just can't get something to run, it crashes. Not because of my code, but because the software just isn't working. I'll take out that virtual device, I'll put it back in. It's kind of like a refresh. And so I do that probably 2 or 3 times a semester in class. So here, I'll show you. I'm going to add a new device. I'm going to create a virtual device. And the one that I think I picked was a Pixel 2. Now, one thing that has already been done, because I did it yesterday after class when I was testing things out, is that I believe it on my desktop, it suggested that I put in an SDK 35. So I'm going to cancel this and see how this is SDK 33. Last year, maybe I put in SDK 34, but this was always defaulting to my 33 with Giraffe, and so I had to change it. So I put in SDK 35, and I did it on both my machines, so that's something that you will probably want to do. So create a new device, Pixel 2, and does it even tell me here what the SDK is? No, it doesn't. I'm just going to hit next. Oh, here's where it is. So you can see that you could download these other SDKs. This was API 35. So that's the one that I put in. It's already installed in my machine. So sure, this default name's perfectly fine. I don't care. It isn't like I'm going to say dad's phone, mom's phone, etc. So keep that in there. And another thing that worked for me yesterday in the new setup is something I've never had to do in the past is I actually start up the device and then run my program through the device. I see a minority of students over the last 2 years did that during their homework. Most of them just did it the way I did it, which was just run your program and the device will launch. So I'm actually going to try it that way, just run the program. I'm going to go ahead and kill that with the X. It's still something you can get over here. It's the Gradle file lives over there. And I'm going to hit this run, and then I'll pause and see if it worked. That took about 30 seconds, still running over there, and I've got this, this error down here. You know, red's always the watch out. And this is the message that my API needs to be updated, the compile SDK. So that is the old error that I anticipated, but I didn't fix because I just wanted to see how that was going to work. Notice the phone is still starting. And I'm going to change my compile SDK to a 34. Now, when I make any changes to the Gradle, I'm going to want to sync. Again, that button up there, there's probably one or two other ways that I could sync. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that, even though this phone is warming up right now. It might tell me I can't because it's in the middle of this process. Let's see. It does say that the sync has started down here. It'll probably take longer than last time, but not as long as the time before, but I'm going to pause. I believe I was right that it probably took a little over a minute this time. And it's got my phone started up, warmed up, I think. OK, so I set the compile SDK to 34. I synced the Gradle. And now I am going to run and see how long that takes. I'm going to pause. I think it's getting closer, and it's been well over a minute. So you could see that you're going to want to play with this. And I've mentioned in class that this can be a very frustrating environment. Once you get your configuration set up, it usually doesn't take this long. So it isn't like in class when I run, I have to wait and talk and take up dead space for a minute and a half. It happens a couple times per class maybe, but it's not as bad as right here. I'm pausing a lot. So these kinks probably will get worked out. You want to play around with Android Studio and see if you can get things to run. I can tell that it's further along because I got this menu that popped up. And over here, though, it's still saying like it's struggling. Like if I hide this, make this readable, it's saying it's not responding. Now, this menu usually pops up when you got an error in your code, and it's going to crash no matter what. But this is just base code. So I'm going to try one last time to hit wait, and we'll see. Yeah, there you go. It actually worked. That's all it's supposed to do with your base program. Just say, hello world. All right, so I'm going to stop the video there. In the second video, I'm going to actually try to do this again, but through Koala. Because remember, even though we're using Koala, this program I created when I was in Giraffe. So it's more like it's a backdated version. All right, so I will see you in that next video.